Imagine yourself entering an empty concert hall with a gorgeously crafted grand piano on the stage. Are you free to play it? On the one hand, the answer is obviously yes, because who's going to stop you? You can march right up there to that piano and play any note you want. You're free to do so. This kind of freedom is the absence of constraint. There is nothing to prevent you from doing what you wish. But there are other kinds of freedom. For example, if you are allowed to play that grand piano, are you free to make beautiful music with it? No one is stopping you. But do you have skill? Can you actually make music? Are your fingers trained enough to play well? Do you have any repertoire committed to memory? These questions point to another kind of freedom. Not a freedom from, but a freedom for. We love to feel free and unconstrained, but sometimes there is deeper freedom to be achieved by freely submitting ourselves to some constraints, laws, rules, and disciplines. If I never study music and never practice, I will never truly have the freedom to play that grand piano on stage. It will be sitting right there, inviting me, but I will have no power to make it ring with beautiful music. To experience the thrill of exercising a skill and the joy of making genuinely beautiful music, I have to submit to the rules of music theory and to the discipline of practicing daily. Before I take my first lesson, my musical talent is only potential. To free that talent, to unleash it, and let it do good in the world, I first have to accept some rules and put in some hard work to grow my freedom into reality. This principle is true for almost anything worthwhile we'd want to achieve. Anyone can be merely unconstrained. To achieve something great or beautiful, whether in art, in business, in relationships, or in life in general, it takes something more than freedom from. It takes focused attention, practice, and working within the framework until we are actually more free. There are other kinds of freedom as well. There are mental and emotional freedom, which entails healing wounds and overcoming the false scripts that the little voice in our heads may be telling us. There's interior freedom, which is the capacity to live joyfully, even amid terrible circumstances, such as unjust imprisonment. Maybe you don't always feel your freedom, especially if you're focused on what you have to do. Your homework, your chores, various laws or regulations you may or may not see the point in. But if you take a moment to think about it, you realize just how free you really are. You've chosen to submit to those rules because of some higher good that is preferable to rebelling against them. But you can do anything you want that isn't physically impossible. Your choices could be negative or positive. You could rob a bank. You could steal someone's car. You could smile at a random person on the street and wish them well. You could visit a nursing home and comfort the lonely and forgotten. You could spend some extra time praying. Whether you notice all these possibilities at every moment or not, they're always there. You are radically free. Some people abandon all the rules and structures imposed on their lives when they realize how free they are, and they choose to do whatever they want instead. They try to leave behind everything that might restrict their freedom. But do they end up happy? Or do they end up frustrated, like the person sitting in front of the piano with no ability to play it? Radical freedom is God's gift to us. He gives us certain building blocks, our families, our circumstances, our talents, even the talents and opportunities we aren't given are gifts, if properly understood. But then He leaves us radically free to make something beautiful with those blocks. We must do something with our lives. We must use our freedom for something. But what? It's up to us. And we face the challenge that choosing some things closes off the possibility of choosing others. If I choose to become a Catholic religious brother or sister, I won't be able to get married. If I choose to study architecture, I won't be able to study medicine, at least not at the same time. So using our freedom takes courage. If we spend our lives trying not to decide so that all the possibilities are always open, we'll reach the end of our lives having never been really excellent or noble at anything. When our lives are spent trying to achieve freedom from, we end up getting lost. That's because freedom isn't an end in itself. Freedom is a gift that must be stewarded well. Just as musicians become more and more free to create beauty, as they master their art, so we become more and more free to do good with our lives when we tackle our habits with intentionality. The harsh reality is this: if we don't decide what kind of person we want to be, forming our habits and character traits intentionally, they will form themselves with no help at all, and we are likely to develop vices that hold us back instead of becoming more free. We need to actively choose habits that reinforce what we believe is good and right. Another name for good habits is virtues. Choosing to live according to specific virtues helps us define healthy boundaries for exercising the freedoms we've been given. And more than that, growing in virtue unleashes our potential. Most of us go through life without any conception of how good we are capable of becoming and how much good we are able to do, simply because we think of virtue as something limited, a constraint, rather than something empowering that helps us to lead beautiful and unrepeatable lives. Once you know more about yourself, who you are, and what motivates you, it's time to decide how to use that freedom wisely. What specific rules will you submit to, thereby guiding your choices? Sometimes it makes sense to keep certain rules for a fixed period of time, like a project-based rule. Under other circumstances, it's best to keep rules for a lifetime, like a solemn vow. That's one of the many projects in the SEED program. Based on your core motivations, you are challenged to define and articulate your plan to grow in virtue. You wake up with the freedom to choose your own direction every day. Will you stay the course on the way to your long-term vision, or will you pivot and walk down another path? You can also choose to follow a day-to-day vision, struggling and fighting for the right daily path without a plan. Will you choose to let your life happen to you, or choose to happen to your life? Because to do the second, you'll have to make a conscious decision to follow your calling. Choose wisely.